Brian, it's an honor for me to have a formal discussion with you. Thank you for this major opportunity.
Thank you, Emma. Great to
Thank
be here.
you.
Hope I haven't eaten Marco.
Yeah, I must say that you are a champion, and you made a difference in a lot of people's lives. But I want to
Thank you.
ask you, behind being a world champion, behind all the titles, behind all the awards that you received, there was this one boy who had a dream. And I want to ask you, as a young child, that boy, since when did you realize that you can become a world champion?
Well, I also grew up very poor in Troyville and Malvern. And mom and dad got divorced when I was 5 years old. I'm an only child. And but my dad was a South African champion, and that was my dream to be a boxing champion as well. And at the age of 9 years old, I nagged my mother to take me to the Alice Park Boxing Club. And it wasn't easy because, as I said, I'm an only child. My mom didn't want an only little boy getting punched in the nose. But that's what I wanted to do. I had the dream and the vision to be a champion. And fortunately, my mom took me, like 56 years ago, to the Alice Park Boxing Club. And the rest is history.
And you're now a successful coach as well, and you're also a commentator on SuperSport. You do a lot of fundraising events. You participate in majority of the South African boxing tournaments, but you now recently the coach or the manager of a successful champion.
Yes, yeah. Colwell Kusi is the only South African now that's the WBC world champion. And he's the first man ever from East London to win a WBC world title. So we're very proud of him. We won the world title the other day at Empress Palace against a guy from the Philippines, Melvin Jerusalem. And Sia Colwell Kusi now is the WBC strawweight world champion. And I'm proud to be his manager. Yeah, thanks. Do a lot of work for SuperSport commentating. And I guest speak a lot of functions. I help a lot of charity work. And that's what keeps me busy as well.
Yeah. One of my fundamental things about being as someone on the autism spectrum, you realize in the work that I'm currently doing as a researcher, as an autism advocate, and also as an academic, that the purpose is bigger. And what I really appreciated, I want to take you back on the interview that you did years ago with Dr. Ali Bacher. We had a conversation with you, and I think it was your former manager that was also on that in that conversation, and you talked about. Well, he talked about you did a lot of charity for Reach for a Dream, for instance, and you were involved with them, and you needed to go to a fight overseas, and on the same day, you were literally needed to do charity work, and there wasn't a lot of time, but you insisted that you must first do charity before you go.
Yeah, thank you. You like that story. Thanks. I was fighting in a big world title fight overseas, and I was catching the plane that night. But I had a big event in the afternoon with Reach for a Dream with a lot of children that were terminally ill. And I said, no, I'm doing that first before I get to the airport. And that's the kind of person I was. I think you got to put the people first, and especially children. And if you become a celebrity, you become a famous, well-known sportsman, you must give back to the community, and that's what I still enjoy doing. I give a lot back to charity. I guest speak at companies, and I enjoy that kind of thing.
No, that's amazing, Brian. Now, Brian, throughout your career, like you've been punched very hard. You had setbacks, you had injuries. But what kept you moving forward during the times where you felt like giving up? What was that inner drive?
Yeah, well, it's tough. South Africa is a tough country, even for people to live in, um, and life is tough. When you wake up in the morning, you got to. When you're a married man like you are now as well, you got to provide for your family, and it's tough out there. But you got to have that want, that will to be the best and to win, and to dedication, discipline, and determination are always the key factors for me. And that was my driving force. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to win. I wanted to provide for my family. And I suppose I wanted to be a world champion boxer. That was in my genes to be a boxer, and that's what I wanted more than anything in life. I mean, look at your stories, better than my story. I mean, you spoke for the first time when you were 15 years old. That's absolutely incredible. Well done. I've got to commend you on that.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's been a long journey itself, and especially my wife as well, Sammy.
Yes,
You've got Amaya as well, who sacrificed also her life, and it's a tough journey. It's a long journey, but throughout life, and I'm referring now to the different fields now, but I think generally the concept is the same. Through adversity comes opportunity.
yes.
And especially when people write you off. Uh, I want to ask you, have have you experienced like something like that before? People written you off.
Well, when you become a professional boxer, people don't believe in the dream. You've got to prove them wrong, and you've got to keep winning, and you've got to keep proving the knockers that you're better than they think you are. So yes, it's always that struggle of proving that you're the best. And there were times where, even when I've got a shot at the world title back in 1986, which is 40 years ago this year, the South African media and the international media said that Mitchell's a good South African champion, but he can't win a world title. He's not good enough. And I said, flip that. I'm going to be the champion of the world. And it was a 15-round fight back in 86 at Sun City, thanks to the late, great Saul Kersner. And I knocked the world champion out in the 10th round to become a world champion. And I proved that I wanted to be the best, and you can be the best if you believe in yourself. So even the media in South Africa and the international media didn't think I could be a world champion. And I retired a 14-time undefeated world champion. So, like you, if you believe in yourself, you can do it.
Yeah, definitely. Um, do you still have records?
Internationally, I've got the world record for the most defenses ever in the junior lightweight division. And I'm the only South African boxer in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. So, and I retired undefeated. So I think that's kind of a record. But still not as good as your story. It's incredible. I mean, tell us more about yourself. I mean, started speaking when you were 15 years old. What an incredible story. And look at you now. You're doing an interview with me and you speak so well.
No, no, thank you, Brian. I wanted to call you Mr. Mitchell because I've got so much respect for
Brian's good.
for people like you, what you achieved as well.
Thank you.
Look, I'm a big sports lover as well. And the reason why I specifically chose you for this conversation is because I remember as a non-speaking boy, I used to watch the interviews with Ali, and also I used to watch all of your old fights as well.
Yes, yes.
And and it was something that I basically could relate to. And I've also been isolated, or also been discriminated against. Um, you know, when in grade two, there was a teacher that tied up my hands because I
Yes.
stand in class. I've been excluded. I've been publicly humiliated at university, and it was through support that I achieved my goals, but it was tough, and being on the autism spectrum, people tend to write you off. People tend to have a negative perception towards you.
Mm, mm.
And by finding role models, in different sports, especially someone like yourself,
Thank you.
that keeps you motivated.
Mm.
And especially growing up in your times, and I want to ask you,
And now you Dr. Emil. Well done.
Doctor, I'm still working on to become a professor.
Okay,
Still
great.
working on it, but yeah, I'm trying. And therefore, this platform is basically I want because I'm starting an initiative to write the South African National Autism Strategy, where we are including autistic individuals, neurodiverse individuals in South Africa, for inclusive education, inclusive working environments, making sure that no one is left behind. And
Fantastic.
as an autistic person, people tend to, there's a lot of these days there's a lot of understanding, but people do not know how to accommodate. And I want to ask you, based on your personal experience, what who gave you the best advice, or what is the best advice that someone gave you?
I think that the best advice that I can give anybody now is like I said earlier on, the 3 Ds work for me: the dedication, discipline. Without dedication, discipline, and determination in life, you're not going anywhere. You have to really believe you can achieve it. You know, there's me, there's Brian Mitchell, there's Gary Player, there's so many great stories. We've won the World Rugby Trophy more times than New Zealand does, and it's belief. You must believe in yourself. You know, we can achieve dreams. If you dream it, you can do it. My advice to youngsters is discipline is everything in life, but the dedication, the discipline, the determination, and you can be a champion. Why not? Set big goals for yourself and you can achieve them.
Yeah, definitely, be a champion, because they say that, if you want to succeed, there's a lot of things that you need to do in order for you to achieve it. But if you want to succeed, you need to have those fundamental principles as well. And one of the things that I want to ask you, based on your personal experience, is that what advice would you give for young and upcoming boxers, but also the younger generation?
Yeah, it all goes back to the discipline. You know, you've got to work hard, you've got to train hard. You know, it's not easy to make it in sport. It's not easy to make it in life. It's what you put into life, you get out of it. So if you put in the hard work and you run a boxer needs to run. So a boxer needs to get up and you need to get out there and run. And then you need to get to a boxing gym like this and you need to spar because that's what makes you a good boxer. But it's the hard work. Hard work creates success. There's nobody really on the planet that's very successful without hard work. It doesn't matter where you come from, what business you come from. It's the same principles. It's that discipline. If you want to make it in business and in life and in sport, be disciplined.
No, thank you. Now, Brian, I want to ask you, look, my neurodiverse Brian, I can remember facts and information,
Okay.
and, you talk about rugby, geez, I used to read rugby books and stuff, and I would remember information. I would basically approach people like Rassie Erasmus or Nick Mallet, and I would basically ask them about their families, no statistics
Yeah.
about them as well. But I want to, and therefore, before this conversation, I basically, I told you about the interview that I watched. That was quite or not the interview. You asked Floyd Mayweather a question, and you, I think you were a little surprised and about it. But I remember it fondly because personally, as an autistic person, look, I followed you as a South African champion, and I didn't like the way he talked to you
Okay.
during your
Thanks.
conversation. And
He's
also,
lucky I wasn't 10 years younger. I would have beat him in the ring.
yeah,
I remember, he came out to Empress Palace. He's quite an arrogant guy, and I don't think you need to be so arrogant to be successful. But he's obviously is a success story.
Yeah, definitely. But I remember leading up to this question, but I remember specifically the Floyd Mayweather and the Manny Pacquiao fight. I know you were on, uh, you can correct me, but you were on a show where you actually, because apparently it was the biggest money maker in boxing at that time.
Yes.
And I remember, and this is now my neurodiverse brain talking. Now, you said Manny Pacquiao is going to win that match, and then now I see that there's going to be a rematch. So I want to ask you, do you think, that fight needs the hype that it was always? Because look, people hyped it up so much, and then suddenly it was quite a disappointing fight as well. So, what is your opinion?
Yeah, the thing about the fight game is sometimes you can get two guys that are very, very good and very special, like a Manny Pacquiao and a Floyd Mayweather. And they're so good that they can't hit each other. You know, that you do, because these are the things you work on every day for hours and hours to hit someone and not get hit back. But when you're fighting a great guy like a Mayweather or Mayweather's fighting Pacquiao, they can both do the same thing. So nobody's getting hit. So you're throwing punches, but you're not landing. So Pacquiao was throwing tons of punches, as they call it in America, punches in bunches, but it was all on the arms of Mayweather. And it was the same vice versa. Mayweather couldn't catch the great Pacquiao. So from that point of view, it becomes an average fight. So you can get two superstars fight like Pacquiao and Mayweather, and it doesn't have to be the best fight. Two big, great fighters can be a better fight because they don't have good defense. So that's how boxing works. You'll see a great fight, and it's actually two guys that are not superstars because they don't have a good defense.
I want to ask you, what's your opinion on Tyson Fury?
Tyson Fury. I'm not a big Tyson Fury fan. I'll go back to Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis, and those are my favorite heavyweights, not Tyson Fury.
And you know what? Coming back, sorry, that's my neurodiverse brain talking now
That's
because
fine.
I remember facts
That's
and
good.
information.
Good.
You were inducted in the Hall of Fame of boxing.
Yes.
And do you remember that you told Ali Bakr that your best, the keynote speech was from Sylvester Stallone?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Sylvester Stallone was there, and he got inducted into the Hall of Fame as well, but he's not a boxer, but obviously for what he's done for boxing. So it was nice to meet Sylvester Stallone there, and all the greats were there. You know, Tyson was there. I met Muhammad Ali also over the years. So that's the other great thing about boxing. You get to meet the superstars.
And the person that you met that stood out the most for you?
I think Muhammad Ali's got to be the biggest, greatest name that I ever met. I was the MC for him at a big function in Joburg. But yeah, the guys that I enjoy is Lennox Lewis as a heavyweight. And Sugar Ray Leonard's my favorite boxer of all time. So I'm happy to say that I'm friends with Sugar Ray Leonard today. And if I have to choose one best boxer of all time, it's Sugar Ray Robinson. Unfortunately, I never got to meet him. But yeah, Ray Robinson is the greatest fighter ever, if I choose one. And Sugar Ray Leonard's my favorite.
Yeah, Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah. George Foreman? Was your
George Foreman is great, yes. He was also great.
Yeah, no, and South African boxers, Gary Coetzee.
Yeah, so Gary Coetzee was our first heavyweight world champion ever. Corey Sanders was a world champion heavyweight as well. We've had some really good fighters in this country.
Yeah. What about okay, now. Oh, geez, my brain was just going.
Yeah, your brain's just searching quicker than mine.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Quicker than I can answer.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Botha and all of those guys.
Yeah, so from a heavyweight point of view, Francie Botha was good, Corey Sanders was good, Gary Coetzee was good, Kali Knudsen was good, yeah.
Yeah, these people, they're actually pioneers of their own,
Yes,
the boxing, But coming back to boxing, myself and my wife, like, this is our gym. And we are really appreciative of you coming out.
Thank you.
This is our gym.
Yeah.
This is our gym that we are boxing.
Yes.
And we train here every single day as autistic couple.
And that's what I want to ask you. Let me ask you a question.
Yes. Okay.
What does it do for you as an autistic person, for yourself and your wife, boxing?
It makes a significant difference, because as a neurodiverse couple, we need to regulate. And when you regulation, because look, you live in a world where there's too much anxiety, too much stress. You pick up on the slightest emotion, in the household or in the news or something that happened, or someone, or if there's a situation that happened, you don't have an outlet. As you all know that as a semi-verbal individual, and as someone that's not speaking, you tend to, get that frustration and your body.
And boxing gives you that outlet.
Yeah, I used to stim. I would stim with my hands, and I would rock. And you might notice that will rock, that will move, because that's regulation. That's how I cope.
Okay.
I sense information, and a lot of neurodiverse people cope in that specific way. But boxing is our outlet. It not only keeps us healthy, but it helps us to regulate as well.
Good.
It was our form of regulation. And do you think, based on your personal experiences, was boxing also a way to get rid of your frustrations and anger?
Yeah, so that's great that you say that. That boxing helps you from that point of view. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant sport in that way as well, because a lot of people have anger issues as well, and they take to boxing. So boxing is good in many ways. It releases a lot of, like you say, if you're anxious, it releases that as well. It makes you feel better if you're a boxer.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And I want to ask you one more question. And I want to ask you, if you could ask the younger, if you can go back in time, if you could ask the younger, if you can give the younger Brian Mitchell advice, what would that be?
So I would have stayed at school, because I left at the end of standard 8. I pursued work. I went to become a tool and die maker. I'm a JP boy. I'm a proud JP boy, but I only got standard 8, so I don't have a proper education. I would have stayed at school, and that's what I would tell kids and a younger Brian Mitchell. Stay at school, go to university, get a good education, because education is everything. I mean, look how well you're doing now with an education. So that's where I lacked. I became a good sportsman, but I wasn't educated. So I would tell a young Brian Mitchell, stay with education, or any youngster. Education is everything, and discipline is everything.
Yeah, it's quite important what you said, but for neurodiverse individuals as well, look, unfortunately, education is a major challenge for them because they're excluded. The experience that I went through in my life, but especially my wife Sammy, she was very young when a teacher said that sorry, not fit for the education system.
Yeah.
Education system excluded her.
Yeah.
And exclusion for neurodiverse individuals is very high. I want to share you a couple of statistics. And we've got the highest suicide rate of autistic people in the world.
South Africa does.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
The living age of an autistic person in South Africa is 35 due to depression,
Yeah.
suicide, and it all goes back to education.
Yes.
So, in order for us, a lot of countries, and that is why this national autism strategy plays a major role because, we need to have an integrated education system where, like Australia and New Zealand and all of these countries do, where they accommodate these children
Okay.
based on their own levels. And, education is a major challenge. So, Brian, I want to ask you one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
If I want to ask you if you can maybe look in the camera and just say the following words, introduce yourself again, and say the following words, I support neurodiversity because, we are building a movement where we need support, from society in general for this. And this just shows that, that you are able
Yes.
to support and, support the cause.
Pleasure. Hi, I'm Brian Mitchell. I support neurodiversity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
Brian.
Emil.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Yeah, it's hard. It can be hard to keep people.